Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Wellington, serving humanity from the heart of Wellington since 1921. Now, I hope you can hear me. Denzel's a good check. Can you hear me okay, Denzel?
Not all that broadly, but...
Thank you. I will try and speak clearly. At the President's table today, we have our guest speaker, Greg O'Connor, on Reflections on Policing in New Zealand. John Fletcher will be doing the introducing and thanking. John Boshier is our sergeant. Chris Parker, 2 weeks running, is at the President's table. And Robert Armstrong, who's doing the 5 minutes introducing himself to the club. Could I ask you to check your mobile phones and that you're wearing your name badges, please? Chris is special.
I've got more stars.
Actually, he was lost.
Actually, I didn't know who the president was, so I just said
Moving right on. In guests and visitors, Duncan, could I invite you to introduce your daughter, please?
This is my daughter Heather. She works for the Police Association. Come along to see what, come along to see what Greg gets up to when he swans out of the office and says, "Oh, I have to give a speech."
Thanks, Heather. Welcome. And William, your guest, please.
Well, I'm delighted to introduce Raymond Noonan, a friend and a business partner from Rarotonga. Raymond's family has a pearl farm in Manahiki, and he's been supplying this Rotary Club with black pearls for our auction for 15 years. So if anyone needs some really nice black pearls, he's your man.
Raymond, welcome. World Travellers returning. William. Right, good. John, welcome back from Italy. And World Travellers departing. Just the one or two. Denzel, Grace, who's...
I would like to do it.
Oh.
It is right that we give thanks for this meal and the enjoyment it brings. May it strengthen and prepare us for whatever we are called to do to help and support others who may have less. Let us not refuse to do something that we can do. As a few, we cannot change the world, but we can change the world for a few. We do ourselves the most good by doing something for others.
Amen.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Denzel. Birthdays, just three. Yusuf on the 1st of October, Gray Hewson 2nd of October, and George the 3rd of October. Happy birthday to all of you. And it is the 3rd, George. So, can I have? I'm just putting up front why we are down here today and why it wasn't in the newsletter. Just to. So what we've got is continuing our trials. The next 3 meetings today and the next 2 weeks are here in the James Cook, where we trial different costs and options. Today is a mid-cost at about $23.
Don't go for the cheaper one.
And because we're not tied to the buffet, we actually have a choice of rooms we can move around in. And this is an externally facing room, so we thought we would try a different location. Next week is a light option, meeting in the piano bar, then moving back into what is called Chancellor 6, but our normal meeting room. And then the following week, we're going to try and have our cake and eat it too, which is, if you want a full buffet, you can. If you want a light option, you can. It's working the logistics of that out so you can have really what you want, and that's one of the benefits of the James Cook. And then the following 2 weeks are back at the Wellington Club. One is the Social Enterprise Awards Akina, and the other one is when James Shaw from the Greens Party talks to us on Monday the 31st. So today, next 2 here, then the following 2 back at the Wellington Club. At this point, I will ask John Bosher as the Sergeant to fleece you.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Well, today we're going to have a little bit of fun, and it is a give and receive session. So what I'm going to ask is cover a few subjects that some of you are involved in, and I'd like you to talk about them and receive something. So the first one is the Ombudsman.
Hey, sir, can you speak up, please?
Speak up, speak up.
Can't hear you.
No. Okay, thank you. There's no microphone. Okay, so the first one is the Ombudsman. How many Ombudsmen has this club been fortunate to host? Two, Dame Beverly and Sir Anand. And the Ombudsman, of course, is responsible for looking into people's requests to the government under the Official Information Act and making sure that channels of information are well and truly open. And has anyone here dealt with the Ombudsman, responded to an Ombudsman's question or request? Oh, there's lots of people. Very good. Now, I'd like one of you to just briefly, in return for something attractive, I'd like you to, one of you who just put up your hand, to just describe briefly your experience.
Sell us something, John.
I've got something for you. I have. So I'm going to ask, thank you, I'm going to ask Russ, who happens to be closest to me and who's very eloquent, to just tell me about your experience with the Ombudsman. How did it go?
I was always in trouble.
Well, this is going to be very difficult, John, because you're asking me to remember back over 10 or 15 years back, and at my state, that's extraordinarily difficult.
Just do a thrum.
But it was the usual thing. If we had some information which we didn't want to release because potentially it was going to be embarrassing, we always used to stretch it out as long as we could, and the Ombudsman would send you letters, send a delegation down to ask you to get a move on. But we always complied eventually with the law because we had such respect for the Ombudsman's office.
I'd like all of your table to donate especially heavily, and I have for you a pen, a special pen, personal gift of the new Chief Ombudsman.
Hasn't got any ink in it. Doesn't go.
Next question is about which network company services the coast from Paikokariki up to Foxton and nearly to...
John, Electra.
Thank you. Good. That was
I think you should pay for that.
I'll pay for that one.
Where'd you get the jacket from?
Give him your jacket.
Tell me, how many customers? Electra's got 43,000 customers, and it over the last 10 years has returned $159 million to the people of the coast. It's a trust, and it performs a magnificent service. And if any of you have got any issues with your power supply, just let one of the new directors know. Now, can anyone tell me anything special that Electra does? Here we go. Suzanne.
I've been a customer of Electra for the last 20 years. Well, it's actually between 3 years. Electra has sponsored the Electra Business Awards, of which I am the chief judge. And I can tell you that they are the best awards in the country because they have a proper assessment process, and they have assessors who go out and visit the companies and work with them to increase growth.
Perfect. You're the winner. Okay, so okay, so you're going to get your table needs to donate very, very firmly, but you're going to get the annual review highlights from Electra. And our thanks for being such an excellent Chief Judge. You did a marvellous job. Third issue is New Zealand standards. Now, who can tell me what's happened to standards lately? It's gone into MB. Okay, now, just tell me a little bit more about that. Why has that happened? Can you tell me why? Now, either your table's clearly in the gun here because there's two of you who happen to know about quite a lot about this. So, yeah. Just tell us why MB has gone into, why standards has gone into MB.
Because when Standards New Zealand was an independent entity, it got no Crown funding whatsoever, and therefore could only develop standards as and when they were required and prepared to be funded by someone outside. So you had a continual conflict between private interest and public good. And if there was no private interest, then the public good standards, sadly, would quite often not be developed.
The perfect answer. Good, thank you very much.
The box of chocolates.
So, are you going to do
Where's the fines, John? I haven't heard of any fines. A working pen for him.
So you're going to receive a pen, a special standards pen.
Check if it works.
From Standards New Zealand. Thank you very much.
We shifted jobs.
Now the second to last one is a certain singers event which was held here recently. And as you'll know, of the singers we selected last year, how many of them went on out of the, I don't know, 50 or 60 applicants for singers, how many of them went on to sing in what's called the Lexus Song Quest?
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. Ah, well, very good. Now, of those...
Get the prize.
Yeah. I just want to ask, who of you who were involved in the corporate tables, there's 1 or 2 people here, what did you think of the evening? How did it go from you as a corporate table person?
You have to say, Goody, you won't get a pen.
Are you
I was a corporate table.
yes.
I thought the choice of champagne wasn't particularly Chardonnay was very much a winemaker's Chardonnay, no butter. Pinot, raspberry. The dessert wine was superb.
Very good. So it sounds like it was
An outstanding evening.
It sounds like it was a very successful evening, and the people that were there actually at the corporate tables all got prizes. William, very well arranged by William. So I think William should get this award. Actually, he did such a wonderful job. Yeah. The last quick one is, and I'm probably well over my 5 minutes, is the US Marines. Who protects American embassies? Anyone who's been to the Americans know about
Marines?
the US Marines? The US Marines, there's 182,000 active duty members in the US
Not in
Marines.
Wellington, no.
And it was formed in 1975. Now, who's had something to do with US Marines in here? Ah, our brigadier. What was your interaction with US Marines?
So this is not a setup. I served with both MARFORPAC and MARCENT, which is the Marine Force in the Pacific and the Marine Force in Central Asia.
Ah, well, that's a very good answer. I was invited to a party at the US Embassy in Canberra, and guarded by, it was the birthday party of the US Marines. For those of you who have been in our President's office, you'll know that he has a big round table, and under them is many medallions from all around the world. I have for the winner of that contest a medallion from the Marine Security Guard Detachment in Canberra, Australia, in commemoration of their 233rd birthday.
I've been looking for that for a long time.
Thanks, John. We just had a sergeant's 10-minute session. I'd like to invite Robert to come up and for his introduction. I might ask the membership committee if we could delay their normal one till next week. Otherwise, we won't make timings today.
Sorry about that.
Well, President Mark, guests and fellow Rotarians, I'm not used to following a standard electrifying speech. If you can bear with me for 5 minutes, I grew up as a young fellow in Miramar, and when I was about 10, my family moved to Tawa, where our family owned a retail timber company. And I was educated at St Pat's College in town, as was our guest speaker who's going to follow me in part. And then I did a law degree and a commerce degree at Victoria University. I joined Chapman Tripp in 1964 as a law clerk, as one did in those days, and proceeded through to be eventually qualified as a staff solicitor and remained there as a partner for 24 years before leaving in the mid-90s. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Please raise your hand if you can't. My practice areas were initially in property. In those days, they said you're either a common lawyer or a conveyancer, and I tended towards the latter, although it blended into a lot of other areas. And I eventually specialised over the 70s and 80s in what was then called estate planning, later became known as asset planning, asset protection, which involved family trusts and corporate and other taxation matters. I left Chapman Tripp after 30 years in 1994 to oversee our family business, which then had become a nationwide scaffolding company, Safeway Scaffolding. Well, I then entered into my second career of politics at a lower level. David Watt and Kerry Prendergast, who were members of the Rotary Club of Tawa, each encouraged me to stand for election in the Tawa ward of the Wellington City Council. David, as Deputy Mayor, was about to retire, and Kerry was one of our the other councillor. I succeeded just and spent the next 12 years on the City Council, elected at the same time as Chris here. I had 6 years with Mark Blomsky as Mayor and 6 years with Kerry as Mayor. I enjoyed chairing a number of committees during that time involving financial, audit, strategy and policy issues, and also did something over 150 resource consent hearings, which are not to be recommended, but which do range from the very simple little additions to houses up to the Project Westwind, which was the Meridian wind farm at Macra, which I chaired. It took 28 days of hearings. I found it particularly satisfying on the council. They say chairing committees is like herding cats, although as long as you can get half of them, or half plus one, into on the same page, as it were, you've got a chance of getting a decision. I enjoyed particularly the development of the waterfront over that period, in which we were pretty heavily involved, and I spent 7 or 8 years on the Stadium Trust, both before completion of the building of the stadium and subsequently. Under some outstanding chairs, we had Fran Wild, followed by now Sir Paul Collins, and Sir John Anderson. My interest in Rotary, my first contact with Rotary was with this Rotary Club in 1961. The club at that time invited, and I understand it was a project that continued for many years, 1 or 2 students from the inner city colleges to come along to a luncheon to talk about Rotary and enthuse in them the principles of Rotary, I guess. The same year, my father became a charter member of the Porora Rotary Club, which encapsulated Tawa within its boundaries at that time. And I later joined the same. The Tawa Club was chartered in 1969. My father was a president, and I joined the club in 1975, and was a member there until I joined this club a couple of months ago. In my presidential year in 1979-80, I was fortunate to share experiences with Jack Eilert, who was president of this club at the time, and as presidents tend to, they sort of share experiences and talk about what they're trying to do and who's trying to do it with them. We were both lucky to have as our assistant governor Bill Boyd, who at the time was a member of the Rotary Club of Wellington South, but of course later went on to become world president. He was an inspiration to all of us and to many people, or anybody really who heard him address them on Rotary matters. And a couple of years later, I had the opportunity. I was asked to be assistant governor, and I visited this club a number of times. when John Todd was president, and found that I think I learned more from him than he did from me at that stage. Apart from the times when I was president of my club, Tawa that is, which were very satisfying, I found that I spent about 10 years on district committees on various issues, particularly Rotary Foundation, Group Study Exchange, Friendship Exchange, and those involved the selection of candidates, outstanding young people, men and women, to go overseas on group exchanges and so on. Some of those programs aren't existing now, but they were certainly well worthwhile. I also have attended a number of international conventions, one of which I brought home with me this tie, which has got lots of colours in it, of course. I think it was at Salt Lake City, where Bill Boyd was the world president at the time, and who really was something special. The Americans in particular who were there was plenty of them, they just loved him. He'd come out on the stage, sit on a high chair, no notes, talk for about 40 minutes, and you all felt as though he was just talking to you personally. He was a wonderful presenter. And I later went, 3 or 4 years ago, went to the New Orleans convention with Jeff Atkinson, who was a member here at the time, and we heard the guest speaker there, or the special speaker, was Bill Gates, who talked about his passion for his foundation and the removal of polio and other future programs that he's got in mind. That was also very inspiring. I want to talk briefly about Rotary fellowships. You may be aware there's over 70 fellowships in Rotary. They relate to mutual interest of Rotarians with their hobbies, sports, vocations or whatever. If you're a macrame manufacturer, or you're interested in pre-Columbian civilizations or beer or whatever, you can join a Rotary fellowship. I joined the Rotary Cricket Fellowship, which started 20 years ago, and it's the only fellowship which involves teams, and that has opened the worldwide Rotary cricket movement. And I've been to many trips to play cricket, to umpire cricket with Rotarians around the cricketing world. And every couple of years they have a festival. We've been twice to India, twice to England, to Sri Lanka, South Africa, many times to Australia. This is a New Zealand Rotarians cricket team, and if anybody here is interested in cricket, whether as a player or an umpire or a watcher or enthusiast, then the International Fellowship of Cricket-Loving Rotarians New Zealand branch, you're welcome to join. Please see me and I'll organise it. Our next convention is in January. It's in Christchurch. It's the second time we've held one in New Zealand. And the one after that's going to be, we've been invited, we think, to Pakistan. And some of us are wondering whether it'll get off the ground or whether we'll make it, because it's I gather, a bit of a challenge to go there for any reason, especially cricket. This fellowship has raised money through its festivals and so on. It's raised up at 5 years ago, it raised over $500,000 US in various ways, which has been put towards projects in the mainly third world countries in which we have played cricket. So it's not just about having fun and fellowship, it's about also assisting those who need it. My hobbies and interests personally, I've got 8 grandchildren. As I mentioned, we've moved into Wellington now. After living in Sawa for 60 years, I now live down the bottom of Taranaki Street. I've been involved in many sports during my life, but cricket, tennis and rugby and others, but I'm only active now in golf, where I'm still challenging my handicap, or it's challenging me, I'm not too sure, but it seems to be skyrocketing at the moment. I'm really enjoying the meetings here, President Mark. It's only a couple of months since Kerry, it's hard to say no to Kerry. She invited me to come and join here, of course, when Carol and I moved into town, and because it's hard to say no, and I was very happy to come here. I wouldn't have dreamt of saying no, having been in touch with a number of members here over the years, and I'm looking forward to meeting the rest of you. I've enjoyed the fellowship so far, and I know that this club is really on a roll. I'm confident that you'll reach the target of 221 members by 2021. So thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, Robert. And it is a truism that it's hard to say no to Kerry. Please take a break now for fellowship. And as efficiently and effectively as you can, please grab dessert, a slice of coffee, and regain your seats. Thank you.